talking about grief
and loss. I mean, we just had what happened to Twitch. So I can't imagine the grief his wife and children, babies, are experiencing right now during the holiday season. And it's just amazing to me, Dr. Watkins, how people can show up beautifully. You know, he showed up full of joy all the time. That's how people described him, sunshine and joy, right? Chelsea, same thing, showed up sunshine and joy. And you never knew what was really occurring with them, that they were struggling. And now his family, I'm sure, is grieving tremendously, like so many people right now. So many people are grieving. They don't look forward to the holidays at all.
No, and you're talking about Chelsea. Are you talking about the
I think she was
Miss USA, the beautiful Black lady that was Miss USA?
From Charlotte. She was from Charlotte.
She is from Charlotte, and she jumped off of a building, didn't she?
The 27th floor, they said.
Oh my goodness.
And nobody knew that she was silently struggling. How many people knew that Twitch was silently struggling? They're famous, but they're still just regular people having the same challenges and struggles that we all have, and the grief that it leaves behind. And so, you know, how do we tell people how to handle grief? What do you tell your clients about grief?
The strange thing about grief as a therapist is that it's the one area where you can't really fix it. There's nothing you can say and do to bring, like, usually I'm like, oh, if you have anxiety, we can help fix it. If you have like depression, we can help fix this. But grief is just something you just really just sit with clients and just let them talk about the range of feelings that they have. And you just validate and nod and understand and explore and process and process and process until they don't want to talk about it anymore.
Right.
I mean, it really, there is nothing. And this is complex grief. It's not like someone is 85 years old or 90 years old and lived a full life and died peacefully in their sleep. That type of grief, you don't even really need to see a therapist for. It's this suicide, self-inflicted harm,
pandemic.
Yeah, it's like you feel cheated, like there was so much more this person can do or will do that you just can't wrap your head around. And that's the sort of thing that you help people get to. Do they even really ever get to acceptance? I don't know, but that's the goal.
Right. And then I think the acceptance comes in knowing that everybody is going to reach this stage, right? That we're immortal.
Yeah.
And that there really is no guarantee, like no one ever promised you long life, right? We assume it, right? Because history and from, you know, people living a certain age, but really there's no guarantee for people. And it is the cycle, like everybody is going to experience this, right? And I think that's what I try and help my clients to accept, that this is a part of the life cycle. And that's what you have to accept, that death is something that is going to happen for every living creature on the planet, not necessarily the loss. And another thing that I do is I ask them to tell me about their loved one. Like I have them share with me like beautiful stories and memories so that I can teach them how to shift the way they look at the person. So instead of looking at it as a loss, look at it as you've got these memories that you carry with you always. And that makes you happy. Even though you do miss them, you still carry them with you, and think on those things. Think on those beautiful memories that you have. And then if they're faith, I travel down their faith journey with them
Yes.
because that's big for a lot of people, and that helps to give them some sense of comfort. But I also tell them to let their emotions have passage. Don't let anybody tell you how long you're supposed to not be or supposed to be grieving. It's going to come in ebbs and flows, and give it passage, because it's when you try to constipate it, that's when it gets complicated, and that's when it gets to be overwhelming and too much. But if you let it flow and allow yourself to have those feelings when they come, let them flow, and then keep going with your day, because that's what life does. I know it seems unfair, but life doesn't stop. I don't even think life blinks. Does it blink?
Yeah, that's what's not fair about it. Life goes on. Like, life should be stopping. My loved one is gone. Like, no, everybody should. How are people just moving along? My life is over. My whole world is shattered, and people are just walking along like nothing. This is not fair.
Right. And then one of the things that I try and share one of the things that I'm hearing from clients is that people really don't know what they're feeling. So when people's like, I know what you feel, and when they give them all these little cliche things to say, I'm telling my clients, look, just say, hey, I'm here for you.
Yeah.
Whatever that needs to look like. Don't offer them no advice. Don't say, I know how you feel, because you might have an inkling, but the people are individual. You really don't know what they feel. So
No.
it bothers people when you say that, because they're like, how? Like, are you in my body right now? Because you don't know. And so just say, I'm here for you. What is support? How do I support you in this part of your journey right now? How do you want it to look? And get insight and feedback from them. Because it's just, I mean, and we're talking about grief and loss, but there's so many versions of loss. People losing their jobs,
Mm-hmm.
um,
Ending relationships.
I mean, that throws people over the edge.
It does. Yeah, you know what? The thing about like ending relationships, any type of loss in your life, what I find that people struggle with is that they're actually losing a part of themselves for a good reason. Because if you're somebody who's lost someone close to you, you're not the same person really that you were before the loss. After the loss, you shift and you become, I want to say, wiser or more insightful or more learned. I want to say that you are different. So I think that's part of the loss. It's like if you lose a job, or if you lose somebody close to you, or if you lose a relationship, which can be even tough because that person's still alive. They're just not in your life. They're not alive with you every day. And because of those experiences, you almost have to say goodbye to the old you. And now you become a new person. You are now a person. Suppose you lose your mother. You now have to walk around with the story, a different story now. Your story says, I'm a person and my mother is gone.
Wow.
On Mother's Day, you have to wear, I think it's the white rose. You wear whatever, there's like a color rose you wear that corresponds to whether your mom is still with you or not, and it's like,
Wow.
I gotta now wear a different rose. I'm now a different person. And that's the part, I think, the grief that people don't really understand, is that in these relationships and life experiences and moving on to a new chapter in your life, you can't move on. You can't be better, honestly, without shedding who you used to be. And that's tough for a lot of people to grasp. It's scary.
That's a wonderful, wonderful point, though. Thank you for bringing that up. It's so powerful and true. And so, how do people adjust? How do people get past that?
Yeah, it is really something. Of course, I always have like memory books, and whenever you lose them, and or just some way, or I have in my house, I have like a little memorial in my kitchen.
Wow.
If someone has passed on, I'll put their obituary or their picture up, and I'll put candy out and stuff for them. It's my spiritual practice. And it's funny because the kids are like, that's the wall of death. The kids call it the wall of death. And they get mad at each other. If you mess with me, I'm gonna put you on that wall of death. They just like, so it's just, it brings life, because that's the thing. It's like, just because people transition, and really that's the word we should be using, because this
Yes.
is what, third dimension. And really when people shed their bodies, they just move to a different dimension. So in a way, those memories you were talking about before that you have, they still live with you. They're still with you,
Right. And that's what
but just in a different form.
right. Like I tell my clients, we are spiritual beings having a human experience.
Yes, yes, we are.
So our spirits never die.
Never.
So your loved one, you can't physically see them, but they're still alive and even younger and more vibrant than they were when they were in their physical form. So absolutely. And another thing I try and tell my clients is find ways to honor them.
Yeah.
Like what was special to them, and do that in
Mm-hmm.
a celebratory manner, right? Like you had their essence with you for whatever that time was,
Yeah.
you enjoyed it. Can you imagine having never had that? But you had this special person in your life. How do you celebrate them? How do you honor them? That helps too, with their grief and their sense of loss when they know that they can make it a celebration. It doesn't have to be a heavy type of thing.
Right.
And
I
that
mean,
wording is powerful. When you said transition, that
mm-hmm,
shifts something in their brain, you know?
mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's
Yeah, I was thinking about like my grandma. She was a librarian. So a librarian assistant. That's what she would correct me. I'm not a librarian, I'm a librarian assistant. I guess that's a big deal, those titles. And every time I read books and every time I pick up a novel, every time I do that, I think about her, because that's what I used to see. She would sit out every day and she did a lot of reading, and her mind was sharp, So I just like, that's what she left for me, the love of books and stories
wow.
and all of that. I mean, it's really nice. So they do live with you, and the memory lives with you, but you do honor them, and it doesn't have to be like a big time honor somebody. You don't have to take out a bust. You don't have to create one of those busts and put it up. But there's little things you can do to remember them. Like, I'm an avid reader and I enjoy books because of that. So I appreciate that in my own little tiny way. Most people don't even know this story, they don't need to. It's not for them. It's for me. Yeah.
Oh, wow. You helped me to remember my grandmother. And I tell people she was one of the great loves of my life.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things that she would do is she would write me handwritten letters and put them in a mailbox for me so that I would get a letter from her.
Old school.
Old school. And so when I do write somebody on a card or a letter, it does bring back her memory to me. Thank you for that. That is so true, because that was special to me. That was something that she did only for me.
Oh, that's sweet.
I was her
And
pudding cake,
it,
apple
it,
sauce, and candy.
but I'm saying it means so much in this day and age to sit down and write somebody a letter. That means you had to get a pen, get a paper, get an envelope, get a stamp. I can't tell you where my stamps are right now. Who sends stuff in the mail? You have to go to the mailbox or the post office, or I guess I could just put it outside my door with the handle up. I don't even
Right.
know how to mail a letter right now. It's like, it's so much process. You have to think about that person so much more to mail them a letter than you do picking up your phone and just typing a message. So that's such a great way. That's a good method to use. I'm gonna use your grandma's method. Start sending people handwritten notes. See, now she's gonna live with me.
Oh, well, Dr. Alicia, this was wonderful. And I think that, this was an easy conversation about grief. And I think we made it kind of happy, not necessarily sad,
Yeah.
because it's transitioning. It's not goodbye. It's see you later.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. See you. Or, yeah, I guess see you later is a good one. Or I see you whenever I want to. Look at your picture. I'll see you when I feel like it.
That, yes, that's it. That is so it. 'Cause I tell my clients, talk to them loud, put on an earbud or something, so people think you on your phone. I said, but talk to them. I mean, they can hear you. You just be careful if you hear something back. But I mean,
I don't judge if people are for it, if people aren't. I just say, okay, that's how that's how it works. And
that's
it's cultural because I had a lot of Hispanic clients and they don't play around. They're like, no, my brother is with me in my kitchen, such and such. We put a plate out for him. We do it. And I'm like, all right, go ahead. I'm sure that's his favorite meal. Go ahead and give it to him. They don't, I don't judge any of that.
yeah. Well, it was so good getting I'm just enjoying you, Dr. Alicia. I really am. You just a nice,
Oh,
bright sunshine.